guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to be doing my first bullet journal flip through. So this is my first completed bullet journal. I have it labeled and everything. So this was from October 1st, 2017 to September 23rd, 2018. Almost a full year of bullet journaling, and this was my first ever bullet journal. So I have done other bullet journal kind of videos and flip throughs, so I will link those on the screen throughout for you to kind of check out. But this I think will be a good way to show you kind of how my bullet journaling has evolved and what worked for me and what didn't over the first year and what I learned from the whole experience. If you've seen my bullet journal videos before, you know that I am not a super fancy bullet journaler. I'm not an artist. I don't draw. I don't use a lot of color. It's very minimal and functional. So this isn't going to be one of those beautiful bullet journal flip-throughs. This is just going to be something that actually keeps me sane. So the bullet journal that I use and that I continue to use now is the Leuchtturm 1917 dotted. I will link it in the description below from like Amazon or something for you to check it out if you're interested. But I still use the same black one for my current bullet journal. So the first thing was the index page, which I didn't really use a ton of. I did label some of my collections on there, so you'll see like wish lists, some things about BookNet Fest, at a glance, some goals, whatever, but I don't really keep up with a index as much for my collections in my current one, so this is something that I sort of do, but I feel like I could use something else. Like you can see here, I do kind of tabs now. So this is something that I haven't really figured out if I'll ever really keep that. So I initially did do kind of a year in review or year coming up kind of thing, because this is something that's in a lot of bullet journals, and when I first started out I just kind of went with the standard thing, but I no longer do this. Like planning out events that are going to happen later months doesn't really matter to me. It's also ever changing. I don't do very much look ahead planning in this way. This was my first ever month cover spread. I'm actually really proud of this little October doodle. I really like the branches. I should not have added in the spider. You can also see there's probably like whiteout and stuff that I used because I couldn't make him proportional for some reason because I'm not an artist. I wish I would have just kept the branches and the October, but really proud of myself for attempting that because that was my first ever artistic venture with this. I also used to have a monthly to-do list, which again I no longer do, but I kept that for a little while, so I'll continue to show you those. But that is something that I no longer do as well because again I feel like things are so ever-changing that I actually find it more beneficial to break it down into weekly to-dos, which I will show you. This was my first ever weekly spread, and it has stayed somewhat the same as far as what I want to track because this is kind of what I always wanted to track. So this actual layout didn't stay for very long, so I had a scheduled week and then some miscellaneous things I wanted to get done in each day, and then a to-do list for general things to get done, some trackers, meals I wanted to have, and upcoming things for the next week, such as appointments and stuff. And then your typical dailies, checklists and stuff, this has mostly stayed the same with the day and then the date underneath it and this line thing. But you will notice that I started making myself more room because I was finding this kind of wasteful having the names of the week be so large, so this has moved around a bit. This was my first collection, a little favorites for spring and summer. My video scheduling thing has stayed the same. My video scheduling layout, that has stayed the same pretty much for the most part, except for I got rid of two little classifications. So I always have the date, and I kind of break it down by my 3 videos per week. And then this was film, edit, description box, thumbnail, I think schedule, and blog post were these two. I haven't kept up with my blog in forever. I actually have gotten pretty much rid of my blog. And then schedule, I basically got rid of that, I think, because I figured out that if I have all these things, then it's going to be scheduled, so I don't need to have a separate thing for that. But that just kind of marked that. But this has stayed mostly the same. Then I have this wish list, which I really haven't kept up with because I find that a wish list in my bullet journal isn't really that effective. I'd rather keep wish lists on my phone. And this is actually the layout that I kept for a very, very long time. So I only did that 1 week with that one layout, and then this is what I changed to. I morphed it a little bit, but this is what I had for a very long time. So the week laid out like this. I had a little water tracker, which you'll see continues, my trackers, and then meals, and then the next week with my weekly to-do. This is a standard. Here's a little collection for BookNet Fest, but I actually ended up switching, and I have a separate notebook with all BookNet Fest related things that I don't keep in my personal bullet journal anymore, because I found that it was more helpful to just have it in a separate lined notebook with everything together for brainstorming. I could make it really messy. I use that on phone calls that I have with Mari and Caitlin. It just works better than this because there's too much brain dumping that needs to happen for me to fit it in my bullet journal. And then we have November. I also really like the way that I did this. It was super cute. And again, I did a monthly kind of to-do list, but I just found that I didn't really go back to it very much. Again, my video schedule stayed the same, and I had a little 8 goals by 2018 that I wanted to get done. I made about half of those. I have a video about this. Here's my little Declutter November challenge. So every day in November last year, I wanted to declutter something. I ended up, it worked out in that I wanted to declutter the grand total of, and the first day you declutter one thing, second day, and it goes all the way down until you declutter 30 things in the last day. Obviously, towards the end, I didn't do that, but there were some days where I decluttered over 200 things, and it worked out that I decluttered 407 of the planned 465 items. So I really enjoyed my Declutter November last year. Then I have this candle spread. I, for the last year, have been working through all of my Bath & Body Works candles, as well as other candles that I've gotten from like subscription boxes and stuff. But these were specifically my Bath & Body Works ones, and I wanted to burn all of them before I bought any more. So I've stuck to this. I have not bought any more Bath & Body Works candles, or any candles at all, until I get through all of them. I've just gotten some in subscription boxes and such. So this is me filling out when they are empty, so it actually is kind of opposite of what, you know, burning down would look like, but that's how I have to mark it. So I haven't gone back to this because, again, this is my old journal, but I think I've gotten through both of the leaves, burned through all of Pumpkin Caramel Latte, all of this one. So most of these are all burned through. I'm currently working on Fresh Balsam. I do have Flannel. I might have like half of the leaves left, but most of these are actually burned through in the last year. This is the little plan I had for YALLFest, again, YALLFest 2017, and the different things I wanted to attend. Then I started doing something for work, for my old job, as far as tracking paperwork and stuff. You obviously can't see any of this, but it just says all my November paperwork, as well as some billing that I had to get done, so that was helpful for me. Then we have the December cover page. We have Vlogmas, which this year's Vlogmas looks very similar to this as well. But again, I still hadn't gotten rid of some of those other categories quite yet. Then I started doing some other trackers. This changes very quickly. I was starting to track some things in a month kind of thing, and that didn't work. I started switching that to weekly, so I'll show you what that looks like. This was a little gift thing that I did as far as keeping track of gifts that I wanted to buy. So here is where I start trying to track meals in a different way. So this is where I wanted to track eating in, eating out, and like eating leftovers and stuff, just to kind of see how I was eating, where I was eating, where I was spending money, all that kind of stuff. I don't want anyone to feel like this is me showing like good and bad foods, because I'm using red, green, and yellow. But this is just the easiest way for my brain to kind of associate it. But again, it's not like I'm eating bad foods. You know, this isn't supposed to be like a punishment type thing, or, you know, like a judgmental type thing. This is just the way that I track it as far as eating out, eating like junky food versus eating in, even if the eating in food is not like the peak of health or whatever, but eating, you know, healthy food versus junk food versus whatever. So that's just the way that I track meals and what I started doing. And I changed this up a little bit. So here were my 2018 reading goals and TBR. This is when I switched it to a half of the year TBR, and I will talk about how I did with all of these in an upcoming video. But that is how I tracked all of my goals and stuff. I really had fun setting up all of my goals last year, so I'm looking forward to it this year. This is also my monthly goals, which I haven't filled out since I almost switched this over, so I have it in my new bullet journal. But just where I started out and where I was with lifts and what I wanted to do in my personal life goal wise. These were all the books that won my 2017 book awards. And here's the start of 2018. Makes me really happy. I really like this spread. This was 2018 with a mountain on it, which I really liked because my word for the year was conquer, and a mountain really symbolized that. I really loved my January spread as well. I did this little at a glance, but as I said, I don't tend to love these. I never go back and look at these kinds of things as far as planning my year out this way. So I probably won't do that for 2019, but I like the way this looked. But I just don't do this. I don't look at my year this way. So again, the spreads are looking pretty similar. I kind of changed up again the grid for the meals and stuff, and this is kind of how it has stayed, but it just is in a different space now. So this is when I started switching the meal spreads into the meal section. I found that I was writing out meals to try and I wasn't actually trying them, so I put my meal kind of food tracking, whatever you want to call it, over here, and that's where this has stayed as well. This was me tracking the BookTube SFF Awards shortlist and things that I was reading and marking off the things that I had read. Also up here is where I started doing a goal wrap-up, because in January I started tracking kind of different goals as far as how much water I was drinking, how much I was reading, walking and steps and stuff, and going to the gym. So I started doing a January goal wrap-up, and the way that I tracked my goals in 2018 was really successful, and I have a lot of things that have stuck, and you'll see that my goals this list of wrap-up gets larger as the year goes on. This is a collection that I have continued. It's a when did I last collection, so it's things that you don't necessarily do all the time. I have changed some of these things, you'll see this in a second, but when I last changed my contacts, when I last exfoliated, washed my bras because I hand washed them, and new mascara, new toothbrush, new vacuum filter, stuff like that. Changing the sheets and changing the towels, I changed to a weekly cleaning thing, so I will show you that when I get to that part of the bullet journal, but I changed that around. But for things that don't happen on a weekly basis, I put it in this collection, and I really like that. Again, my goal wrap-up, so I would mark if I feel like I did well. I always want to get above 80% on a goal, so that is why you see the green and then like the gray to show how close I got to that. Here's March. March was a cute spread. I like that I did that. And this is where I started to use washi tape to tab my videos, because I'm always going back to my video schedule sheet, so I used washi tape to mark where that is so I can easily flip to it. And I guess I didn't say this earlier with the trackers, but each week I sit down on Sunday when I'm doing my spread for the week and I put dots on the days that I plan on doing those things, and then I cross it off with an X when I've completed it, and that way at the end of the month I can go back and see how many days I wanted to complete it versus how many days I did, and I fill it in obviously. Like if I do it on a day that I wasn't planning on doing it, I still put an X there, but it just kind of shows I kind of plan out that way when those habits are happening, especially if they're things that don't happen every day like the gym or something like that. This is my April spread. That one's cute too. I did some really cute cover pages. This was a list of things as far as moving. I did a couple different boxes as far as decluttering and then packing, so it got so hectic that I didn't fill all of it out. And then we're to May. I obviously didn't quite finish May's cover page, but I think it's because things were really crazy with the move and everything. But as you can see, I'm not showing a ton of spreads and stuff because things aren't changing up a ton. Alright, so this is where in May it starts to change up a little bit. I found that I wasn't using this next that was down here in my weekly spread, so I switched it to a cleaning checklist of things that I wanted to get done. At first, I didn't do the dots like I did over in the trackers. That eventually changes and I start planning it out with dots, but this just shows how often I'm doing things on my cleaning checklist every week. June was obviously a very simple cover. This was a get your shit together list of things that I wanted to do to kind of feel like my life was more in order. And then we have July. I did like a constellation space kind of theme for July. You can tell there's some weeks that I was really busy and just did the outline and never filled in the dates or things like that. And that happens sometimes. There's August, again, super simple. I started trying to track the condition of my skin, but found that, again, writing that in the bullet journal wasn't really helpful. I started using an app for this, which I still haven't found one that works really well for that, but doing it in my journal just wasn't helpful. We have September, and we're getting near the end now. And that was the end. So this is how my bullet journal spread looked. So this was basically the spread that I used for my entire year, and I only switched up my weekly spread recently, which I will show you just because I thought I switched it before the end of the year, but turns out I did not. So actually when I got my new job, which has been like a week after this, is when I was noticing this wasn't working as well anymore and I needed to change it up a bit. So I will show you what it ended up switching to, but this is the spread that has worked the best for me. I find that having a weekly spread with weekly to-dos is the most helpful, and that I can break it down by week. I can't really break it down any more than that. And again, the way that I tracked my daily to-dos didn't change at all throughout the year. And then having my weekly to-dos like this in my trackers was what I stuck to. So I'm not going to show you everything in the new journal because you'll have to wait till next year for that, but for some reason everything wasn't working the same for me and my brain, so I wanted to switch some things up a bit. So I tried out this spread and I just kind of did my days like this and had daily tasks that I designated throughout the week and marked off, and this didn't really work. I did this for I think a few weeks and it just wasn't quite what I wanted. So then in November, actually in the last couple of weeks, I've switched to this and I really enjoy this. So I actually no longer do complete daily things. I just have this weekly spread and I break down my days in the weekly spread. So I have my meals, my trackers, my to-do, just like I always have. And then I have my days of the week laid out like this, but I fit in all of my daily stuff in there as well. So I don't have a separate weekly spread and then my dailies. I just have it all in one thing. And then my cleaning's right here. And then I have space for something else if I ever want to add it. And this is working for me really well. I have it all in one spot. I think because my new job is so much more chaotic even than the last job was, that I just need it all in one spot. I can't have multiple spreads going on. Even though before my dailies worked really well, now I just have my dailies in with the week and it's even more efficient and it is more like minimal, I guess, in my opinion, and saves a lot more space in my journal because I have it all in here instead of having a weekly spread and then dailies. I also for Christmas have asked for some more of these highlighters so I can have other colors besides just purple because I don't want to have purple all the time. But that is what my current spreads look like. Over the last year in bullet journaling, I feel like I've learned a lot. I've learned that if something isn't working, that you can change it and you change it around frequently. If it works, don't fix it and just find what works for you and stick with it. Keep it simple and don't be a perfectionist. If you can't do pretty spreads, that's fine. Or if one week you can't even write in the dates, that's fine. Just use it the way you need to so that it works for you. And just be creative when you can and keep it simple when you can. And this has kept me sane. Like I said, when I was going through the new job and this wasn't working for me, I knew I needed to change it because this helps me keep all of my ideas and everything in flow and in order. So I love my bullet journal. I'm going to continue to use it, and I do have videos coming up talking about some of the spreads I'm going to be doing for like my goal setting and stuff like that. So you can look forward to a video, I think before the end of Vlogmas, again on some spreads I'm going to be using for the next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Comment below and let me know your thoughts about bullet journaling resources you may have, if you found this helpful and if it gave you any ideas for your own spreads and everything else. But thank you all for watching and I will see all of you guys soon. Bye.